Welcome to Coast Vue, the show that celebrates the men and women who are making coastal Mississippi such a wonderful place to live, work, and play. And I've got a really special show today, and I'll come back to our special guest here in just a few minutes. But when I think about young people and the impact that they can have on other young people, I think of today's guest, and I see her as a role model. And I hope that you'll enjoy the visit that we'll have here in just a second. So before I do that, I want to share with you something my wife's cousin, Tony Briscoe, Jurich Briscoe, posted that I think is terrific. And kind of, there's a theme to my show, it is really live in the moment. And as you've heard me talk about with Robbie D'Angelo many times before, if you've got negative people around you, the best thing you can do is get them out of your life. Because there's nothing that comes from having negative people around you, unless there's something you can do to help them not be negative, of course. But here's what Tony posted. There comes a time in your life when you walk away from all the drama and people who create it. You surround yourself with people who make you laugh. Forget the bad and focus on the good. Love the people who treat you right and pray for the ones who don't. Life is too short to be anything but happy. Man, do I know that. I mean, life is too short to be anything but happy. I also came across this terrific quote from the famed, world-renowned architect and designer, Frank Lloyd Wright, who said this: "The longer I live, the more beautiful life becomes." I think that's really, look, the longer I live, the more beautiful life becomes. I feel that way. I feel that way really to the depth of my soul. And I had the opportunity on a daily basis to visit with people who really understand that the older we get, the more wise we get. And with wisdom comes awareness. And I often say this, and it's something I've said many times, but the more we learn, the more we better learn how much we don't know. And this thirst for knowledge that comes from learning how much you don't know keeps us humble and keeps us wanting to learn more. And, as a former publisher, it wouldn't surprise you to learn that I get a bunch of newsletters every morning, and I start reading early, and I read a lot, and I try to stay up on what's happening. And, the internet enables you to sort of dive deep into subjects that maybe you knew something about a few years ago, but you've lost, an understanding of it. So you get a chance to continue to educate your mind. And frankly, there's a lot of great studies out there that says the more you read and stretch your mind, the longer you're going to be able to think clearly as you get older. So there's a lot to be said to that. But the longer I live, the more beautiful life becomes. Hey, before we come to our special guest, I want to move over to my friend Kyle Curley, my partner in crime, the producer of Coast Vue, and say good morning. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. Well, it's always interesting because as I've said before, you participate so well during the breaks, and you and I have terrific conversations during the breaks. We don't visit as much as we should, but you heard that too. The longer I live, the more beautiful life becomes. How does that apply to you?
I was listening to that, and then I get kind of wrapped up in the world as it is now and where we're going in different directions, and it's almost the complete opposite. The longer I live, the worse it becomes. But, if you take it and you take all of the outside influences away, then it's absolutely true. Because if you just look at everything that's immediately around you, family, your friends that you deal with on a daily basis, it is absolutely true. The more beautiful they become, the longer I live. It's all of the outside influences that totally destroy any type of.
I think that's a great point. But look, man, when I watch you, and the listeners will enjoy hearing this, I think, is not only you're a dedicated employee for SuperTalk Mississippi Media, and you work for the Saints, and you do work here locally in professional sports, but I watch you with your family. When your son's active in sports, and I watch you communicate with your wife and the rest of the members of your family. And I mean, I can tell that you're working hard. You're trying to tune out the rest of the stuff in the world, but also live in the moment. And that's what that's saying.
Yeah. This past weekend was probably one of those cases where it was everything I can do to be with family and my son with his baseball and continue to work at the same time. I'd had a dance recital practice and the show between Saturday and Sunday and baseball, and they were on the two opposite ends of the coast. The recital practice and stuff, it was in the middle of the day at Hancock, and baseball was in Ocean Springs off exit 57. So literally would drive to one, drive back to the other, and then go back for a game. It was a lot of driving at $4.95 a gallon.
Hey, man, that's the way it is. I remember those days quite well. Now they're starting to crank back up with our grandkids. Yep. And it's so much fun watching them, and my kids start to enjoy the same kind of, I mean, it's busy, man. It's hard to work full time and have kids and do all these activities. But the thing is, time flies so rapidly. And I look back on those times that I had with my kids doing that. And it's one of the reasons why they all turned out to be really good kids. You kept them busy, kept them around other kids, kept them around other families that sort of shared the same values as us. It's a really, really formative time in their lives. And I cherish those moments. And I know you do too, my friend. I know you do too.
Yeah, this is definitely time that you're not ever going to get back. And especially with my son he's 14 now, rolling into high school. It's not 6-year-old baseball. It's not 6-year-old activities anymore, which not saying anything against it. But they're just a lot different now when he's really going to remember it and he knows that people are there supporting him. And I'm going to be that dad. I'm going to be that person. Yeah. Wife's the same way. That's
great to see, man. That's great to see. Hey, listen, I was going to talk to you about some past shows, but what I will do is I enjoyed that conversation a lot. I appreciate you visiting with me for a second, but we're going to move on to our guest today, who is Katelyne Perry, Miss Gulf Coast. She's been on Coast Vue before, and I really admire her. I enjoyed our visit the last time we visited, and she's getting ready for Miss Mississippi, and she's really a terrific role model, someone I've really enjoyed, staying in touch with. So how you doing, Katelyne?
I am so well. Thank you so much for having me this morning.
It's good to see you. I said to you during our sort of prep before we started the show that I'm watching you. You're working. You have a job, but you're also volunteer and for nonprofit efforts. There's really every time I see you, you're doing something else. I mean, you're literally a very busy person, aren't you?
I am. Yes. In the last few weeks, more so than usual, but I love every opportunity that I have in my life right now. So I'm just trying to live it to the fullest.
Okay, Katelyne, what drives you? What makes you want to be such a positive influence on other young women? Talk to me about that.
Well, I started competing in the Miss America organization when I was just 13, and I grew up surrounded by not only women who went on to become Miss Mississippi, but the girls that were competing year after year for the title, and they were the women that I always dreamed of being. They were hardworking, they were driven, they were motivated, they were serving their communities, and they were incredible role models for me and for everybody around them. And that really is what drives me. I want to be that person for somebody else. That's what encourages me and inspires me to compete in the Miss America organization and just to get up every single day, even when I'm exhausted, and, go down my to-do list and go all the places I need to go, even when I'm exhausted, because I am becoming the person that I always dreamed of being.
You and I talked about this the last time we talked, but people who don't appreciate when they think of pageants, they sort of think of the way pageants maybe used to be and not the way they are today. But this opportunity, it's listening to you even talk to me. And, when I was in business, we spent a lot of time developing people, sending them out, teaching them about how to be a public speaker or how to sit down with a customer and have a really good and coherent and thoughtful conversation. And how to dress and how to present yourself and on and on and on and on and on. Really, that's what pageants are today, at least the kind that you're involved in.
Absolutely. I was kind of thinking about this morning, so it's funny that you brought that up. I think that people, for the most part, just see what they see on TV. They see the end result of months and months of preparation, but they have no idea that preparation even exists. They just see beautiful girls in beautiful dresses, just gliding across the stage. And then at the end, they ask them a really tough political question, but they don't know what all goes into the making of a Miss Mississippi competition and a Miss Mississippi candidate. So I did something really fun this year to kind of bring my friends and family and just anybody that's watching along on my journey. I call it the Miss Mississippi Prep Series. And every day I've been kind of doing a vlog to just take the general public along what it's like every day to prep for Miss Mississippi. And the feedback I've gotten has been astounding. People are saying, you know, like, I had no idea that you had to do all of this to get ready.
So what we'll do, we're coming to the end of this segment, and I'm visiting with Katelyne Perry, who is the Miss Gulf Coast currently. When we come back on the other side, I want to talk about what some of those activities are. What is the rigor leading up to Miss Mississippi, and give people a better feel for what's going on behind the scenes. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to Coast Vue. I'm having a terrific conversation with my friend Katelyne Perry. She's been on Coast Vue before, and I really enjoyed the visit we had last time. I follow her on Instagram and Facebook, and she really tries to live by example. And the key to being a good role model, you got to live by example. To be in a Miss Mississippi pageant, people hear the word pageant, they have this. Some people have this kind of vision in their head about what that's all about, but the way that it's structured today is really focused on trying to help young women build themselves into very strong contributing members of society, whether it's in nonprofit community, whether it's in their job, whether it's in the role that they're going to play as a role model. But more important than anything else, I think, really is helping them reach their potential and showing them that everything in life that's worth having, it requires hard work. I mean, really hard work. When I say hard work, Katelyne, I'm not understating that, am I?
No, you're not. I don't think people really understand all the prep and hard work that goes into it. And it's not just me. Every single candidate competing for the title of Miss Mississippi is in the same position. They are working tirelessly every day to serve their communities, to serve our state as a whole, and to really promote the things that are important to them. And it's no small and easy task, but it's so worth it in the end.
So if you look back on because you've been doing this for a long time now, if you look back on your experiences as preparing for pageants, being in pageants, and seeing the young woman that you are today, what do you look at? Like, what are the top 3 or 4 things that you look at that really changed who you are today, and gave you a better opportunity to succeed in your life?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things that I look at when I look back on my life that I think has made me the person I am today, and I talked about this a little bit ago, but it was deciding to start competing in the Miss America organization, starting in the team competition. That really set me up for a life of being the person that I desired to be. It really made me hardworking and driven. And so I'm very thankful that I made that opportunity when I was so young. And then things like, going to college, serving in leadership positions. I'm so fortunate to run an organization called Crowns for a Cause, and that gives me the opportunity to lead and be a role model to girls every single day from all across the country. So those are just some of the things that I think have really made me the individual that I am.
Well, I hear you talking, and then I'm reminded. I was in pre-med for a while. I went to paramedic school, was in pre-med for a while. But when I changed my major, I went back to Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College, the old Jeff Davis campus, and started kind of rebuilding my education to go to the business approach, and went on to get an MBA at Southern and so on. But I met a woman, Miss Weta White, and she worked in the business department, and she saw things I didn't see in myself at that moment in my life, and really encouraged me to get involved in an organization called Phi Beta Lambda, which is a business organization, fraternity. And they have these competitions. They have like speaking competitions. One of these competitions was Mr. Future Business Executive, and it had all, speaking was part of it. A test was part of it. And there was a lot of aspects to it, a lot of judging. And I remember the first time that I went, and I remember looking at some of the others that were competing, and I thought to myself at the time, there's no way I can do as good as they're doing. There's just no way I can do as good as they're doing. And but I went on a mission. I went on a mission to say, I'm going to go ahead and do this, and I'll see how much better I can do next year. The first year I came in third for across the state, and the next year I actually became in first. But I remember the work that I did to get ready for that. I mean, it was enormous amount of work. And Miss White was so tough on me. Don't do that. Don't hold your face like that. When you stand up there, you're fidgeting too much. You're talking too fast. You're blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm talking about. But these things, I mean, I look back on that. It's interesting because I haven't really talked about it much since then because, your life goes on and you go do whatever you're going to do. I become a CEO, so maybe there was a little bit of a silver ball in that competition, but anyway, I look back on that and I can't understate how important Miss White's role was, and all of these things that I did in prepping, the interviewing skills that you had to go through and all this. All that sounds familiar to you, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I have an incredible team of people behind me helping me get ready. From every social media caption to prepping for interview to my talent choreography. And the best thing that they've done for me is to make sure that every portion of that prep is so me. I feel like I really am taking the best version of myself to Miss Mississippi. No part of any of the prep that I've done has been people telling me what to do. It's just kind of fine-tuning what I was already doing. But I have such a great team of people that have my best interest around me. And I have such an incredible village of just friends and family and supporters that are cheering me on. And that's made all the difference.
It's amazing how much it helps you develop. And, whether you win or not, really at the end of the day doesn't matter. I mean, I know that that's the goal. For sure, that's the goal because you've been in the organization for a while and you really want to refine yourself and be prepared and go there and do the best you can. And hopefully you get it. But if you don't, the work that's gone into helping you prepare will literally change your life. It will change the trajectory of your success for the rest of your life, won't it?
Oh, absolutely. Miss America right now really serves as a female leadership organization. The doors that it's already opened up for my life and people that I've met and opportunities, I could stop competing right at this very moment and I would have gotten so much out of the experience. We're not stopping yet. I still have so many more years that I can compete and we'll see where that goes. But the things that it's already done for my life just kind of blow my mind. I'm incredibly thankful.
That's really cool. We'll come back to Miss Gulf Coast in a second and how that's affected you and the organization around that. I wanted to ask you you mentioned social media, but I don't think I could go on and not ask you what your thoughts on this are. You keep hearing more and more studies about how dangerous social media is to young women and how it's creating so much expectation. A lot of it's internal. The opportunity for bullying and all the things that come with that. What's your view on the state of affairs as it relates to social media and young women?
Social media can be incredibly hard to cope with as a young woman. I grew up in the age of social media becoming really popular. And people getting more and more addicted to it, myself included. I've always loved social media. I've always loved the connections that it's brought me, but I understand, and I've been a victim of how dangerous it can be. People can quite literally get on the computer and say whatever they want to, whether it's true or not, and that can be so dangerous. But I also love the opportunities that it presents to promote the things that are important to you, to connect with people. And Crowns for a Cause, which is the organization I mentioned a little bit ago, is almost completely based off of social media. That's how we communicate with each other. That is how our girls share that they're collecting Band-Aids or they're raising money for this or this. So that has all opened up an opportunity for me to kind of teach them about how to use social media safely and how to just not believe everything that's posted, even if it's posted about you. So I try to just remind them to be strong in who they are and to just use that in the best way they can and the safest way that they can too.
Well, Katelyne, it's interesting because as a publisher, of a newspaper. I was a publisher of newspapers for the last 15, 16 years of my career. You learn to have very thick skin, because when you have hundreds of thousands of readers every day, you're going to hear from them. And we used to hear from them, through letters or phone calls, or maybe they would comment beneath our stories. And even then, we tried to moderate it. In other words, we had literally teams of people that moderated the commenting so that there would be a community standard. And then, of course, Facebook comes along, and there is a community standard that Facebook has identified, but we don't really know what it is.
Right.
And most commenting, they really don't know that you made that comment. So the point is, it's basically not moderated any longer. And it was tough even in the world before, even when we were moderating and didn't have social media, because people would make comments. If you're the head of the organization, oftentimes the spear would come towards you. And I would find myself in a situation where I'm thinking, whoo, man, that stung. That was tough. People, when they're in their pajamas in their basements, are willing to say anything. That's what we used to say. But now that we have social media like Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and so on, that people feel they're willing to say and write anything in the commenting section, because they don't have to look someone in the face. And man, I have seen, here's a guy who the last, say, 10 years of my career was involved in this situation. And when it was directed at me, it was still painful. And I had thick skin, and I had been conditioned and whatever. I can't imagine the pressure on a young person who has not the capacity to deal with it. And no wonder we have psychological issues that come from that. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Miss Gulf Coast, Katelyne Perry, someone I really admire, and we'll continue the conversation. See you on the other side. And in this segment, we're going to get into a little bit about the Miss Gulf Coast organization, talk a little bit about the nonprofit efforts that she's involved in, and maybe what does she do for work when she's not involved in all these other things that are happening. And just continue to get a sense of really the wonderful young person she has become, and the role model she has become through having been involved in these organizations for quite a long time, and pressed herself to improve in every aspect of her life so that she can achieve whatever that potential is for herself. Whatever that opportunity to succeed for herself might be. She's preparing herself for that, and it's just really, really cool to see someone working so hard to be the best they can be. So anyway, coming back to my friend Katelyne. Katelyne, tell me about the Miss Gulf Coast organization.
Absolutely. I would love to. I have had such an incredible year being Miss Gulf Coast. I'm so proud of the fact that I get to go to Miss Mississippi next week and tell everybody and be Miss Gulf Coast. If you're unfamiliar with the Miss America organization, a majority of our local titles are called open preliminaries. And that's just so there are as many opportunities for women to compete in competitions and go to Miss Mississippi as possible. So you don't necessarily have to live in the area of the local title that you're competing for. For instance, in the years previous that I competed in Miss Mississippi, I was Miss Pearl River Valley. Last year, I was Miss Pontotoc Ridge. And I'm a coastie. I'm born and raised on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, but I was representing areas in different parts of the state. So getting to go for the first time, having a title that means so much to me is just absolutely incredible. And I'm really working hard this year to build up the Miss Gulf Coast organization. I would love for us to start sending more girls to the Miss Mississippi pageant from this area. I'm the only competitor this year south of Hattiesburg, which is crazy to me because we have so many bright and intelligent women on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. So I hope that, I can help to build that organization up, and we can see a larger representation of the Gulf Coast on the Miss Mississippi stage.
It takes dedicated volunteers to pull off an organization. I mean, again, certainly at the Miss Mississippi level, but even for Miss Gulf Coast, tell me more about what's involved in that organization.
Yeah, so the Miss Gulf Coast pageant evolved from the Camellia Queen pageant, which I think a lot of the coast is familiar with. It was an annual competition that they held for, I think, at least the last 30 years. I know I grew up attending the Camellia Queen pageant, and I competed a few years in it too. But it serves as a fundraiser for the Lions Club. So the Biloxi Lions is an incredible group of individuals who do so much good for the community, and they had the Camellia Queen pageant for years, and it was a fundraiser for their organization, but it evolved over the last few years into what we now know as the Miss Gulf Coast organization. And I don't think it makes as much money as it once did, but instead they are pouring in to the young women that they send to Miss Mississippi every year. And I am so thankful to get to be a part of that and to get to have their support. They are such wonderful people that are putting this program on.
So someone were interested in the Miss Gulf Coast pageant. How do they get more information?
They can reach out to me and I can get them in contact with the local director. Her name is Jay Bryce. But I would love to help anybody answer any questions and help them prepare to compete at the Miss Gulf Coast pageant this upcoming year. And Miss Jay would love to talk to them as well. As
you know, I've had Jay on the show before. And her and her husband have, obviously contributed to Coast in many positive ways. But she was a big believer in you for sure. And
one of my biggest advocates this year.
Well, she's, what I enjoyed about talking to her is that everything that you and I have said up to this point about what pageants do to help young women prepare to help them get to realizing their potential. She really believes in that. And that motivates her to help as many young women as possible go through a process that can help them be the best they can be. And you can really see it and feel it when you talk to her. And, you want to support someone that's got that kind of a goal, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. I actually had a mock interview at her house a few weeks ago, and it was with women who competed in the Miss America organization together. And now they're here on the other side and they're helping to prepare me. But just listening to their stories about competing in the Miss Mississippi pageant and what it did for their lives after that is just so inspiring. So Miss J is an incredible advocate for this organization. That's why she does what she does. She is a volunteer.
Right.
So much time into it, but I just love listening to how that really changed the trajectory of her life.
Hey, listen, what's interesting about the questions, you're talking about the questions. Some of the questions, I guess part of the process is that you have to answer questions to a panel of judges that we don't see on TV when that happens. And then as the process goes and you get to that last rung of you might get in, then they do ask questions on the stage. And what's interesting about the questions they ask on the stage is that some of them are loaded questions, may have political ramifications to it or societal, and some of them are just current events questions, just kind of testing you. But it's really the luck of the draw, isn't it? Because some of the answers to the questions can be really loaded.
Yes, absolutely. And I don't think that anybody is necessarily expecting that we're going to change the world from the answers of those questions because, we only have 30 seconds to do so, to try to state our opinions and to try to solve problems that sometimes even our world leaders are having trouble solving. But I think the purpose of it is that if you were to be crowned Miss Mississippi or any state title holder or Miss America, you are going to be put in a lot of situations that are not as controlled. People can come up and ask you anything they want to. And so I think the purpose of that phase of competition is just to see how you can handle yourself and to see how you think on your feet.
Well, what it does, clearly, I would assume what it does is that for young women who were not fully aware of current events, suddenly they're a lot more aware of current events. They're paying more attention to what's going on in Ukraine and what Russia's up to and the price of gas and any number of other wild things that we could talk about on the national and international stage these days from a news point of view. But you have to pay close attention, way more closer attention than you used to, would you say?
Yeah, for sure. Because you can get into your private judge's interview and they can ask you anything. No question is off the table. So you don't want to be caught in a situation where they're trying to get you to talk about something that you have never even heard of. So it's definite, and it's impossible to know everything about everything, and you can be honest about that too. But for the most part, you want to make sure that you're well versed in what's popular in the news, what's going on in, your community, and also on a larger nationwide scale, just in case it comes up. That way you can confidently talk about it.
Well, as you know, I was in the news business my whole career, so I'm a news hound. And once you get into that mode, you can never get out of it again. But even in your case, maybe you were not as interested in current events early in your life, but now that you're sort of paying more attention to them, it's very possible, actually, that from this way beyond, when you just go on and live out your life and you're not involved in pageants anymore, that you will always continue to sort of pay attention to what's going on in the world. Is that true?
I think so. So growing up throughout like my middle school, high school, teenage years, I was never super interested in what was going on. I kept up with it before I would go to compete at the teen pageant, just for the purposes of interview. But it was never something that I was super passionate about until I started competing in the Miss competition. And when I went off to Southern Miss, I had some classes with some professors that really opened my eyes to politics and to how important things going on outside of our country, just in the world in general. And I've become really passionate about it. And I love being well versed in what's going on in the world. I love being able to hold my own in conversations with any types of people about those kind of things.
Yeah. So again, my Southern Miss experience was very similar to yours, having really passionate, professors and instructors who had a passion for some aspect of world history or current events, and helped me not just learn about it, but help me really learn a passion for it too. And, and man, that's the benefit of college. I mean, certainly you learn and get a degree and all that. I get that. But it's the ability to stretch your mind and think of it from different perspectives and learn that there is no one answer to anything. There's not two sides to every story. There's as many sides to a story as there are people who are engaged in that story. So you can only imagine when you get to the international level how many different perspectives there might be to any current event. Ukraine, for example. So it's complicated. And the opportunity you had at Southern Miss to sort of gain perspective, learn how to learn, so to speak, it's very valuable, isn't it?
Oh, for sure. When I was at Southern Miss, I was involved in so many different organizations with so many individuals that believed so many different things. And I love talking with them about that. I was at Southern Miss leading up to the 2020 presidential election. So it was hot topic in every group of people that I was around. That was something that we were all talking about because a lot of my friends were becoming voting age. I had just become voting age just a few years ago. So it's new and exciting when you're getting to vote for the president for the first time. And I just loved listening to everybody's different opinions and their views and their backgrounds. And
yeah,
that experience.
Perspective. I surrounded myself with people who would disagree with me. I wanted that. I don't like yes people, for a matter of fact. Anyone who worked with me knows that very well. Hey, when we come back, we're going to continue our conversation with Miss Gulf Coast, Katelyne Perry. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to Coast Vue. Look, I hope you're enjoying this conversation as much as I am. And it's the kind of conversation that, if you have, whether you have boys or girls in your life, in your family, maybe they should both pay attention to this conversation because there's a lot to learn about not taking anything for granted, about hard work and preparation and all that goes into something like Miss Mississippi or Miss Gulf Coast. In my case, really, I was able to relate to her because of some competitions I did when I was at Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College and how it affected me. But so this plays out in different ways depending on whether it's a boy or a girl, whether it's a pageant or some other organization. But the reality is the opportunity to be involved in organizations that stretch you, that drive you, that teach you to set goals, that help you improve yourself, that surround you with people who are going to help you become a better person. That's what this conversation is really about. And that's why I admire Katelyne and her determination to want to be a very positive role model. I've had some terrific conversations with her offline, especially today, actually. And what I learned about her really helps me have even more confidence in saying that she is very, very dedicated to trying to be the best role model she can be. And there's a lot to learn from her. So I would say if just catching the end of this, go to the SuperTalk Gulf Coast Facebook page or to the Coast Vue page at Facebook and grab this conversation. You can also go to YouTube and get it as well. Just go Coast Vue, Katelyne Perry. It will pop up. And share it with the young people in your life. I think you'll be glad you did. So coming back to my friend Katelyne. Katelyne, you're involved in a lot of nonprofit work. Give us a sense of what some of that is.
Yeah, so I think growing up on the Mississippi Gulf Coast really gave me the mindset that I have about giving back and why that's important. Because I remember growing up and Hurricane Katrina completely destroying the only home that I'd ever known, but remembering how people came from all over the place to help us rebuild and to feed us and to just help make life just a little bit easier. And that really resonated with me. So for as long as I can remember, I've been super passionate about volunteerism and giving back. And that's led me to be able to advocate for a few different organizations. Most importantly, I'm a big supporter of Children's Miracle Network. That is my social impact initiative, my personal one for Miss Mississippi this year. And I've been able to work really closely with our state's only children's hospital, Batson Children's Hospital, and raise money for them and promote them and raise awareness for all the wonderful things they're doing. And then through that, I started an organization last year called Crowns for a Cause, and it serves as a direct benefiter of the Children's Miracle Network Hospital. So everything that we do is for Children's Miracle Network hospitals across the country. There's 170 of them located in North America. And we have these ambassadors that are so wonderful from all over the country. We have 115 of them right now. And they work hard every single day to share and to advocate for what's important to them and for our mission. So to date, we have raised over $15,000 for Children's Miracle Network hospitals and 75,000 boxes of children's Band-Aids for those hospitals. And through Crowns for a Cause, every time they reach a new goal or a new level of the program, they receive an incentive. So something like a t-shirt or a pin, or a plaque once they reach Hall of Fame status. So I love being able to not only pour into them and share with them why I think service and giving back is so important, but also be able to reward them for those hard work and efforts.
I loved, you and I talked about this the last time we talked, but I love the Band-Aid effort. I mean, it seems so simple, but it's so powerful, isn't it?
It is. You don't think about something as little as a children's Band-Aid, a character Band-Aid being that big of a deal to anybody. But when you're 5, 6, 7 years old and you're in a hospital, which is a scary place, and you're about to receive an IV or have blood drawn or just any number of procedures, that provides an opportunity for you to focus on something besides what's about to be done to you. They get to pick out and think about which fun Band-Aid they're gonna, proudly wear after that procedure is over. And that's why I think children's Band-Aids are so important. And that's something that hospitals don't always have. If they do, it's fabulous and they use them, but that's not really deemed a necessity in a children's hospital, is having those fun character Band-Aids. So that's why I love that we get to make that change.
I think that's so cool. It's such a simple little thing. You talked about after Katrina, and my math is right. You were like 8 or 9 years old, and you were still impacted by what you observed. And I was publisher of the Sun Herald at the time, and was working really hard on the recovery effort. And I too was incredibly touched by what I saw. And I talk about it on the show all the time. But it's the former President Bush thought about 1,000 points of light. That we can have all these organizations like Red Cross and Salvation Army and Goodwill Industries and all these organizations, and those are really important. But still, things fall through the cracks. Your Band-Aid deal is a great example, something that kind of fell through the cracks. And there's an opportunity for another point of light to kind of come in and say, okay, I'm going to address that. And then maybe there's another effort over here that I'm going to address that. And these 1,000 points of light and this pulse that comes from them is what makes the community tick. And we're lucky in coastal Mississippi that we have so many dedicated people. Listen, we're out of time, but it has been a genuine pleasure to catch up with you. You're a very impressive young person. You're a good friend, and I look forward to watching you achieve. It's going to be interesting to see where you go in your life, but I hope you the best.
I appreciate it. And once again, thank you so much for having me on. I always enjoy being here and getting to chat with you.
God bless you, my young friend. This has been Katelyne Perry, Miss Gulf Coast, headed to Miss Mississippi. We'll watch her and we'll cheer for her as well. We'll see you later. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.